First time, the Atlanta BeltLine Inc. is the organization responsible for implementing the vision of the BeltLine. Quarterly briefings are intended to be a forum to receive updates on things that are happening currently at the Atlanta BeltLine. They also serve as an opportunity for you to ask questions about these projects from our subject matter experts. Now, to help with our user comprehension this evening, we have enabled the live transcription feature. And if you like to view this option, please click the live transcription at the bottom of your screen to select your preferences. Additionally, tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted on our website at beltline.org/meetings. Now, when you registered for the quarterly briefing meeting this evening, you probably noticed that you were asked to share some demographic details about yourself. Collecting and analyzing demographic data helps us to better understand the meeting participants, also helps us identify disparity gaps and make informed decisions, and ultimately create a more equitable and inclusive Beltline redevelopment process. So our goal to create a Beltline that benefits all communities, one of the things we have to do is collect this data to help us inform some of the decisions that we make. So we want to thank you in advance for sharing those demographic details with us and assure you that the individual responses are kept confidential and information is aggregated to ensure your privacy. And with that, I'd like to turn the next portion of our meeting over to our president and CEO, Mr. Clyde Higgs. Clyde?
Thank you, Lynette. So good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Clyde Higgs, and I'm the president and CEO for Atlanta BeltLine Inc. Thank you for your grace. I am on double duty today, trying to be in two places at one time. But my mind is definitely here with the BeltLine, and it's been very reflective. 2023 was perhaps one of the best years for the BeltLine in terms of productivity and making sure that we are focused on the needs of the community. I'm very optimistic about what 2024 has in store for us as well, and you will hear from the team with regards to their efforts. But I do want to stop and acknowledge new team members at the BeltLine. And as we continue to grow, we expect to have about 85% of the BeltLine trail under construction or completed within the next 12 to 18 months. That's significant. But in order to make sure the projects are staying on schedule, we have to add new people and headcount. So I want to stop and recognize 4 new people in the organization. First, Kiana, which is in our communications group, Chris, which is in finance, and Jediah and Camille in economic development. And so if we could, let's stop and give these 4 new team members just a virtual round of applause. Welcome to the team, gang. And then lastly, as we just go to this next slide, one of the things that we are particularly proud of is on the affordable housing side. And you'll hear from Dennis later on with real specifics regarding our efforts there. But what we're looking at is making sure that we continue to look at a for sale product. So if you think about BeltLine housing affordability right now, it is mostly rental. And so how can we reimagine affordability along the BeltLine where people can actually build wealth as well? And so one of the things that we're excited about is this partnership with the Land Trust that is led by Amanda Ryan, where there's going to be 21 or so affordable units right near the West Side Trail, the BeltLine in the Oakland City neighborhood. And so that's just one of the innovations that you'll see from us in 2023 and then moving into 2024. But exciting times, we're very optimistic. We also have some real robust conversations that we're going to need to have in 2024 with regards to transit and other efforts. But thank you for your attention and thank you for being here this evening.
And now we'll have a few words from the mayor, Andre Dickens.
Welcome to Atlanta BeltLine's first quarterly briefing of 2024. As an honored Atlanta BeltLine board member and as mayor, I envision Atlanta as a city of safe, healthy, connected neighborhoods with an expansive culture of equity, empowering upward mobility and full participation for all residents. The BeltLine represents a progressive project that brings this vision to life. In 2023, we made tremendous progress, and 2024 looks even more promising. By the fourth quarter of 2024, we anticipate completing or having construction underway for 85% of the BeltLine Trail. Additionally, we're expanding small business programs and organizing free community events so that all Atlantans can enjoy the BeltLine. One thing I'm particularly excited about is the BeltLine's impact on our affordable housing goals. We've already completed or have in development over 8,000 units citywide, backing our commitment to create or preserve 20,000 affordable housing units by 2030. Together, we're enhancing community connectivity and moving Atlanta forward. Thank you.
We would like to thank Mayor Dickens for that great welcome. Hi, I'm Rashida Williamson. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Atlanta BeltLine. So at this time, I'm just going to provide an overview of the meeting format for tonight. Now, we are joined by 105 people on the Zoom virtual meeting platform, and we are also broadcasting live to YouTube. So if you're watching on the Zoom platform or YouTube Live, you could call and you can also follow along on the agenda at the top of each slide. But if you are listening by phone, I will walk you through the meeting agenda now. Now, our agenda tonight has opened with a welcome and meeting logistics, and we'll follow this with the audience polling and a BeltLine 101. After that, we'll listen to ABI updates, followed by a featured presentation for our art on the Atlanta BeltLine. This presentation will be followed by a question and answer portion for the questions and comments and conversations that you may have as well. We ask that you please do not place any questions in the box until we have gotten to that portion of the agenda. Questions placed in the Q&A box prior to the completion of the presentation will be dismissed to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to hear the presentation without distractions. Dismissed questions can be retrieved in the answer section of the Q&A box and pasted back into the live portion of the Q&A box when the presentation is complete. Now, for our meeting format, you may have noticed by now that your line is muted, and you will not be able to share your video screen during the meeting. This is just to provide the best listening experience for everyone involved. And a recording of this meeting and a presentation and all other supporting materials will be made available online at www.beltline.org/meetings. And if you have any technical difficulties during the meeting, please email engage@atlbeltline.org. And should we encounter any technical difficulties, we appreciate your patience as we sort them out. So before we start with the project updates, I would like to just get a sense of the virtual room by asking you all a few questions. And as I start the poll, you should see the question pop up on your screen. Now, this feature is not made available if you have called or you're viewing on the browser online, but I will read the results to the group. So our first question, what neighborhood do you live in? You could be in Northeast Atlanta, Southeast Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta, Northwest Atlanta, a city of Atlanta neighborhood that is not on this list, and a neighborhood outside the city of Atlanta. Now, I see we're getting great participation right now. So we have a few more coming in. We're going to go ahead and probably stop that poll right now if we can, just to share the results with the room. And just to give a sense, we do have at least 23 people in here from Northeast Atlanta, 13 from Southeast, 3 from Southwest, 9 from Northwest, 3 in a neighborhood in the city of Atlanta, not on this list, and 18 in a neighborhood outside the city of Atlanta. So we'll move to the next question. We just would like to know, how long have you lived in your neighborhood? It could be 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 11 or more years. We can go ahead and stop that poll and share the results. All right, so we do have 32 people in the audience that have been in their residence for 11 or more years, 33 with 1 to 5 years, and 7 with 6 to 10 years. For our next question, we just want to know, what is your relationship to the Atlanta BeltLine? Now, this should be a multiple choice question for you, so you can choose as many as you would like. We just want to know if you use the trail, if you're a homeowner in the BeltLine neighborhood, or you rent a home in the BeltLine neighborhood, possibly a residential landlord, a business owner in the BeltLine neighborhood, a commercial landlord, a developer, real estate broker. You could be a community activist or advocate, or just generally interested in the BeltLine project. And again, with those technical difficulties, I am informed that this is single choice. So we do apologize for that. But we'll go ahead and stop that poll and still share the results with the room. I see we have 19 people in here that utilize the trail, 33 that are homeowners in BeltLine neighborhoods, 2 that rent. We could continue on. We do have a few developers in the room as well. And we have 15 people that are generally interested in the project and 3 that are community activists and advocates. So let's move on to the next poll question. Now, this is a new one for this new year. And we just want to know, what are you most likely to be doing on the trail? We'd like to know if you utilize the trail for exercising or other recreations, running errands, going to work or school, engaging in leisure activities, or you don't usually utilize the trail. And this question is multiple choice, so you could continue to use it as much as possible. Yep, you can go ahead and stop those. Share the results with the room. So we have 57 people that exercise and use it for recreation, 47 who engage in leisure activities, 17 that run errands, 7 that go to work in school, and 5 that don't usually utilize the trail. And for that, we would like to go into our last question. Is tonight your first meeting? And we typically do like to ask this question a lot because we do have sometimes a lot of people, this is their first time learning about the BeltLine and our project and all that we have to offer with our diverse programs. So that being said, I see that the poll is at a standstill, so we'll go ahead and stop and share these results with the room. And as we see, we have 21 people that this is their first BeltLine meeting. We welcome you. And also we have 59 people that this is not their first BeltLine meeting. So that being said, between our listeners on the Zoom platform and YouTube Live and also the phone, there's always at least that one person that hasn't participated in our BeltLine meetings. So we want to just go ahead with a BeltLine 101, just so you can get a major portfolio of how the BeltLine project is. But it will be at a high level overview. So I'll just start off with our mission or our vision statement. I do apologize. And that is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. So that being said, the Atlanta BeltLine is working with MARTA in its efforts to implement the 22 miles of light rail transit, also to provide 1,300 acres of new green space, 33 miles of multi-use trails, 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing, $10 billion in economic development, 48,000 in construction jobs, 50,000 in permanent jobs, public art, environmental cleanup, and of course, community engagement. So with that being said, we'll move forward with our project updates, starting off with our Director of Design, Kevin Burke.
Thank you, Rashida. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd also like to thank the mayor for taking a little bit of my thunder by already noting how much of our corridor will be under construction or completed by the end of the year. This is a graphic that's color-coded. You can see the legend, but basically, excuse me, purple is currently in design, green is constructed, and orange is under construction. The red, we have a few of those, are in the process of bidding and should be starting hopefully within the next few months. Next slide, please. like to start with the Northeast Trail. There are currently 2 segments that are under construction. The pictures you see here are what we call Northeast 2, which runs from a small street called Westminster Drive that probably not too many people know about, and heads north up to Mason Street in the Armour Otley development. And segment 1, Northeast 1, runs from Westminster south down to 10th and Monroe. Northeast 1 on the left is our carriage trail. This is a section that we're running through Piedmont Park. And we're very excited that hopefully within the next few weeks, this will be open as we get the lights up, cameras running, and get some handrails in for safety. On the right, I'm sorry, that was not Northeast 2, that's Northeast 1. On the right, you can see the tree planting that our partner, Trees Atlanta, has been engaged in for quite a few weeks, and I believe has finished the tree planting for this year on Northeast 2, and will be starting some of the tree planting along the carriage trail in very short order. Next slide, please. Southside Trail, there are a number of different segments. I'll actually start from west to east. Segments 2 and 3 run roughly from Pittsburgh Yard to Boulevard in Southeast. That is in procurement, which means it's out for bid, and we're very excited to get going with that one. Segments 4 and 5 from Boulevard to Glenwood. You can see the pictures here, some of the construction that's ongoing. The picture on the left is the deconstruction of the old freight rail abutments at United Avenue before we build a brand new bridge over that street, which we can promise you the bottom of the structure will be high enough that trucks will not hit it in the future. The last section, which we're also excited about, is starting design segment 6. This is the new pedestrian bridge that we hope to build over I-20, and also the implementation of the full streetscape modifications through Glenwood Park from I-20 down to Glenwood Avenue, which will then connect with Southside Trail segments 4 and 5. Next slide, please. The West Side Trail segment 4 runs from historic Washington Park to just north of Hollowell Parkway. Slated to be completed in a little over a year. On the left, you can see the pre-construction ready to build out a ADA compliant access ramp from our trail up to westbound Hollowell. And on the right, you can see where a fair amount of our trail in this segment will be on elevated structure to reduce impacts on land and just primarily have as light a touch as possible, something we haven't really done before, and very excited to announce that about a week or 10 days ago, we had the first pour of concrete in the section on the west side of historic Washington Park, and we're going to start moving northward from there. I believe the next pour is scheduled for next Tuesday. Next slide, please. Our Northwest Trail runs from Marietta Boulevard on the west, tying into West Side Trail segment 3 that was completed approximately a year ago, moves sort of northeast and then eastward under I-75, through Tanyard Creek, eventually under Peachtree Street. And as you can see in the middle image, very excited on a suspension bridge that we will be building over Peachtree Creek. And segment 1 will tie into the future Northeast Trail 3, which will complete the what I call the Northern Arc. So very excited to be moving forward with construction on a number of sections here during this coming year. Next slide. Ponce Streetscape. This is a project that's been going on for a bit. Runs from Boulevard and Monroe on Ponce eastbound to the Freedom Parkway intersection. It's improving sidewalks, signalization, some storm drainage, and will also include a new access ramp up to and down from our East Side Trail to Ponce behind the CVS that's across from Ponce City Market. So that's a great project that we're really looking forward to fully opening to the public this year. Next slide. And my last one are the 2 projects on Ralph David Abernathy, a complete street section near Lucille that is improving bike safety and bike utilization on the street. And on the left, you can see under construction, the access from RDA down to our West Side Trail. This is on the west side of the Cascade RDA intersection. And once complete, will allow people who live in the South Gordon Street neighborhood or just anywhere on that side of Cascade to not have to cross that very busy intersection to get to our existing ramp. So it should improve people's ability to safely access our corridor. And with that, I will turn it over to Sean Green, our transportation specialist.
Thanks, Kev. Transit. Let's talk about transit. The investments that we have made as a city over the last 150 years have shaped the city to what we experience now, whether it be the MARTA subway, whether it be the interstate highway system, whether it be the railroads that founded Atlanta in the first place, or the city street network, even Hartsfield-Jackson International. These investments have been, very forward-thinking. They've been for the purposes of the future. And that's really what we're talking about here when we talk about Beltline Transit. We know that the region's expected to grow about 2 million people for Metro Atlanta over the course of the next 20, 25 years. We also expect the city of Atlanta's population to double. And so the ability to pull together a transit system over the course of time is going to be something that not only serves, my grandkids, but will serve, the city of Atlanta and the Metro Atlanta region for generations to come. The other thing that we want to make sure that we're doing, though, is that we're making it as beautiful and efficient as possible. And you can see in the two upper images here from France what it looks like to have an active transportation corridor, a trail immediately adjacent to a light rail streetcar type of vehicle. You can see that in the bottom left as well, with a vehicle that is completely off wire. And so in the bottom right, you can kind of get an image of what we expect transit on the Beltline to look and feel like. Next slide, please. So the trail network that we've been working on for the last 15 years or so has been amazingly successful. A lot of days you go out, especially in the spring or the fall, and it's just gorgeous weather, and it's wall-to-wall people on the east side, and the people are really, really enjoying it over on the west side, and the north side, and the south side's under construction, so that will be delivered soon. But other times it's a ghost town. Usually that's weather related. And what the transit system does along the Beltline is it makes sure that, regardless of weather, regardless of where you're coming from or going to, regardless of your ability, whether riding a bike or an e-bike or riding a scooter or just walking is not in the cards for you, the transit is the thing that kind of democratizes the corridor and makes it available to everybody. So in addition to the active transportation trail corridor that we have, the program from the beginning is to also bring the transit to the corridor and make sure it's as accessible to as many people as possible. It's really foundational to the program. All of the other elements of the Beltline program of projects are hung off the promise of transit. Next slide, please. And we've been at it for a while. I mean, you can see this 1961 rendering from Atlanta Regional Commission when they were doing some work back in the day planning for the MARTA system. But you can see it's there as a Sears, which is what Ponce City Market used to be. And you can see the Beltline corridor with the MARTA train on it. But you can also see all the work that's been done transit related over the course of the last, 15 years or so in this list. And on the Atlanta BeltLine website, you can find our transit resources page for anybody that wants to go back and take a look at primary source documentation. I know there's a lot of stuff that's out there in the ether right now, but I'd encourage everybody to be looking at the primary source information and to ask a lot of questions at the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. So specific to one of the projects that we have going, we have a 13 to 14 mile planning project for transit that's going on right now called, interestingly enough, called the Beltline Transit Study. It's looking at the northwest quadrant of the Beltline. That's the primary focus of it because there is no abandoned railroad corridor there. So kind of like we did a couple years ago with a feasibility study for bringing the trail through the Northwest and trying to figure out what that alignment is. We're doing something quite similar, at least analogous wise, in Northwest to try to link up a transit alignment that gets you generally between Bankhead MARTA and Lindbergh MARTA. So that is a work in process. We kicked that off community-wide in October. And the other elements to it, though, are the southwest and the southeast quadrants. We're hearing a lot of great feedback from the communities that are in the southwest and the southeast. And really what we're doing there, since we know what the corridor is and we have the general idea of alignment, what we're really looking at doing is focusing in on connectivity, really trying to nail down where the stop locations are, the station locations, and get the community feedback with respect to all of that. So the reason we're not looking at the Northeast is because that community has already seen that planning work done. That the publication or the deliverable from that effort from MARTA from about a year and a half ago is on the Beltline website as well, under that Transit Resources website. Next slide, please. So this $3.5 million project, it's got 2.8 million federal. It's got 700,000 from Beltline to make it a $3.5 million project. Like I said, we kicked it off in October. We've done some other follow-up, smaller group, focus group meetings along the way, as well as some pop-ups, whether it be at Adair Park, at Pies and Porches and Pies. I can't ever remember which comes first. We were popped up at Streets Alive downtown in December. We've got a lot of additional community outreach that's forthcoming on this as well, as we go into identifying stop locations in the Southwest and the Southeast and really start to identify what's going to happen in the Northwest and make sure that we're coming out to the community and getting some feedback on that. So when all is said and done, the deliverables from this project will help us to nail down transit on the entirety of the 22-mile Beltline. And we're going to have that deliverable done before June of 2025. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come on this. Next slide, please. In addition to the transit study, there's also the Streetcar East extension. This is a MARTA project. MARTA has just recently executed a contract with their final design engineer. The name of the firm is HDR. I'm sure it stood for something at some point, but to my knowledge, it just stands for HDR right now. But you can see from the map here that there is a lot of transit that is being spread out across the city as part of the More MARTA investment program. So the halfpenny sales tax is being put into these tier 1 projects right now. You can see some arterial rapid transit. You can see some bus rapid transit. You can see in the coming off of the downtown streetcar, there's a little segment of the streetcar east extension shown in this map. So we're seeing a broad investment of transit across the city. And then the inset, you can see with the green spaghetti map there, all of the local bus service that MARTA has enhanced over the course of the More MARTA program as well. So this is citywide. This is not just Beltline. This is part of a larger program of building out the network. Next slide, please. And you can see that it's hitting some of the densest parts of the city. So you can see the city of Atlanta, you can see the Beltline loop, you can see the MARTA heavy rail system in the blue lines with the dots for stations. And then the areas that are highlighted in yellow, where the reddest areas, if you will, those are the locations where the city population is 10,000 people per square mile or greater. So when you look at the overall density of the city at under 4,000, this is the densest part. This is the most transit friendly. This is bringing transit from downtown out to the East Side corridor, and we think it's going to be extremely successful. Next slide, please. And so in terms of details, like I said, MARTA has just executed the contract, and actually we had the agency kickoff meeting today. We are very excited to get this project up and running. The intention is that the 30% plans, which were finished in 2023, not too terribly long ago, are, that's kind of our North Star for this. It was a publicly vetted process to get to the alignment that we have, to get to the stop locations that we have shown here. And generally speaking, the intention is to take transit east from the streetcar east, or from the downtown streetcar, take it east along Edgewood to Randolph to Auburn to Irwin, and then into the Beltline corridor up to Ponce. That is the intention. And then you can also see here, we're going back to that system from Nice, France, where they've got an amazing grass track system and an off-wire vehicle. And that's really kind of one of the benchmarks that we're going to be working with MARTA and HDR to try to achieve that. And I think that I guess the last thing to say about that is targeting 2025 to complete the design and get to construction and have service operating, carrying customers in 2028. So with that, I will be quiet and turn the microphone over to Dennis. It's all yours, bud. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. As Sean highlighted, our city continues to experience rapid growth. And with that, affordable housing production remains a top priority for the Atlanta Beltline. Our progress to date includes the creation and preservation of 3,555 affordable housing units for families within the Beltline tax allocation district. This puts us more than 63% of the way towards satisfying our long-term mandate of producing 5,600 affordable units, specifically within the Beltline tax allocation district. As you can see from the right side of the graphic, those units have been created or preserved within the TAD through partnerships with Invest Atlanta, the City of Atlanta, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, Atlanta Housing, the Development Authority of Fulton County, as well as others. It should also be noted that 831 of these units can be directly attributed to the City of Atlanta's inclusionary zoning ordinance. ABI also keeps track of units created or preserved within a half mile outside of the tax allocation district. You'll hear us refer to that as the Beltline planning area. And to date, nearly 1,800 units of affordable housing have been created or preserved within the Beltline planning area, with 131 of those units directly attributed to the inclusionary zoning ordinance. So combined, that's over 5,300 households within Beltline communities that now have access to affordable housing. Next slide, please. This chart shows ABI's housing production since 2006. Notice that the amount of affordable housing within the Beltline TAD has more than doubled since 2018. We need to average about 300 units of affordable housing production each year through 2030 in order to meet our mandate of producing and/or preserving 5,600 affordable housing units. In recent years, we've been exceeding our annual production goals, and we currently have a strong pipeline of over 480 units. With such strong regional growth and with such strong demand for housing, we know that we shouldn't just be limited to achieving a mandate of 5,600 units. So we expect to push beyond that number, and we expect to do that with strategic acquisition and development of property along the Beltline corridor. Next slide, please. So as part of our affordable housing strategy, ABI has been strategically acquiring land within the Beltline TAD, specifically to create long-term affordable housing and affordable commercial space within the Beltline corridor. We recognize that if we can control the land, then we can ensure that what is developed on the site is designed to meet the community's needs. We currently have nearly 90 acres of land between multiple locations that we are actively working to site plan and see redeveloped for its most impactful use. The first update I'd like to give you is on our Garson Drive property located at 579 Garson Drive. Got some really exciting news actually just hours ago. Georgia DCA just announced that our property there has been awarded a 4% low-income housing tax credit and bond allocation. And we couldn't be more excited. An award like that will allow this property, which is nearly a 3-acre property in the South Buckhead Lindbergh neighborhood, to be developed into 130 units of permanently affordable workforce housing, which will also include affordable commercial space on the Beltline. And the site is also situated on Peachtree Creek with views of the water there and also in close proximity to the Lindbergh MARTA station. So very excited about that. The second property I'd like to mention is our 350 Chapel Road site. This is a 6-acre site that we acquired last year in the Grove Park Historic Western Heights neighborhood, and it is adjacent to a 30-acre site that we also own. We're currently working to pursue low-income housing tax credits for that site as well, which would allow for the development of 200 affordable workforce housing units. I'd also like to share that we continue to negotiate in good faith with the developer finalists for our Murphy Crossing site, our 20-acre property in Oakland City. And we are optimistic that we will be enter into contract within the next 45 to 60 days. Should be noted also that the developer does intend to begin re-engaging with the community regarding the project here in the first quarter. So look out for more updates on that project. And then I'd also like to highlight that you may have been aware the ABI acquired 14 acres at Pittsburgh Yards last year. We are beginning our community engagement efforts on that property, and we're also assembling a planning team to master plan that site. We expect to release an RFP to seek a developer partner for that property next year. Next slide, please. Now I would like to discuss our property at 425 Chapel Road. This site is a 30-acre assemblage that is adjacent to Maddox Park and adjacent to nearly 30 acres of city-owned land that will eventually front to West Side Trail Segment 4, which Kevin mentioned would complete construction in the spring of next year. ABI has been working with the city of Atlanta to develop a master plan for all 60 acres of that land at this location. Our work will culminate into RFP offerings for mission-aligned developers, and we have a tremendous opportunity here to create truly catalytic development for the neighborhood, bringing in much-needed housing and retail options to meet the needs of the community. We also have the opportunity to improve park and green space, improve bike and pedestrian mobility, and improve connectivity. Since April of 2023, we have had several public meetings, stakeholder committee meetings, and events to seek input and to keep the community up to date on our progress. What you're seeing here is the current iteration of our site plan, which is still a work in process. Our current plan for the site envisions over 3,200 residential units and 123,000 square feet of commercial space. We plan to develop this property in phases, and the ABI-owned portion of the site, which is left of your screen there, will be developed first. In the next few weeks, we'll kick off phase 2 of our community engagement plan, where we will seek community input to craft components of our future RFP offerings for site development. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to provide a brief update on our Atlanta BeltLine Partnership's Legacy Resident Retention Program. This is a tax relief program for legacy residents in 4 BeltLine sub-areas. If you're a longtime resident living in sub-areas 9, 10, 1, and 2, and are currently living in your home, and you have a household income up to 100% of the area median income, you may qualify for the program. This program will cover your property tax increases through 2030. To date, over 200 homeowners have currently been approved for the program, and this program has been made possible by philanthropic support from Georgia Power, Bank of America, the Woodruff Foundation, the Rocket Community Fund, Kaiser Permanente, and the Tool Foundation. You can find more information by contacting us at the number or the email you see there on your screen, or by scanning the QR code. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and your engagement this evening. And I would like to pass it to Kelvin Collins, our Vice President of Economic Development.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis, and good evening, everyone. And it's an honor to provide an update on our economic inclusion work that we're advancing to serve residents, businesses, community partners. The idea here is that we want more communities to participate in the Beltline economy. First up, I would like to focus on our entrepreneurial support and the work we're doing there to ramp up small business efforts around the Beltline. Some of you who are unaware, we relaunched a Beltline Business Breakfast last year, and essentially it's a quarterly speaker series that addresses various topics aiming to help entrepreneurs make more informed decisions and seek to build community and network with other small businesses around the Beltline. Our next business breakfast is happening on February 15th. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. The location is upstairs Atlanta. That's in the Grant Park area. And the topic would really be more about the Atlanta Beltline, meet some of the staff. It's sort of like a Beltline 101 for small businesses. So last year, just to give you a sense of the impact we've been having so far, we were able to serve over 240 businesses through this breakfast event. And so if you're a small business owner, please join us. Or if you know of a small business owner, hopefully you can let them know that this is happening and they can join us next Thursday for breakfast. We'd love to have you. In addition, we launched the Beltline's Small Business Accelerator last year. Very excited about that. It's another first for ABI. And our goal here is to create access to business expansion resources and to help stabilize and build resiliency and scale small businesses around the Beltline. We graduated 24 businesses from that inaugural cohort. Those graduated businesses are now being supported with one-on-one coaching sessions, as well as site selection services. Just a quick success story. One of our graduates from that first cohort has already secured a lease for a brick and mortar location and is slated to open operations at the end of summer of 2024. So very excited about that. And so now we turn our attention to the next cohort, which begins next month. We're going to welcome another 18 businesses to participate. And just so you know, about 70% of those businesses are female-led firms, but 90% are Black-owned businesses. From a sector and industry perspective, about 43% are retail businesses and about 18% are in the restaurant and hospitality business. The makeup is consistent with what you see around the Beltline predominantly. Also, last year we launched Beltline Marketplace, and it's first again for the Beltline, a first incubator program, and we used and we repurposed shipping containers, and we turned those into turnkey retail spaces for small businesses. And we were able to graduate 6 Black-owned businesses from the program, and we provided an opportunity for them to test their products, to build customer base, and to receive business training, as well as affordable commercial space directly on the Beltline. So we'll continue to assist those businesses that have graduated and finding more permanent locations. Some of them are already in the process there. And in the meantime, we are preparing for the next cycle, which will kick off in the spring of this year. For that cycle, we receive about 150 applicants. And so we're wrapping up the evaluation process. We're going to identify another 6 businesses that will be in the marketplace locations. And just to remind those of you, or share with those of you who are hearing about this for the first time, those are shipping containers on the East Side Trail on the Freedom Parkway and on the West Side Trail near our Murphy Crossing development at Avon. And so pretty excited work we're doing on the small business support side of things. Next, I would like to share an update on our digital inclusion and smart cities work. At the last quarterly briefing, we were able to ask some polling questions of the audience, and you guys were able to help us shape the goals of the program. And we continue to do that and sharpen our focus on how we can use technology along the Beltline. So we're excited to kick off this new strategy called our Digital Inclusion and Smart City Strategy. We will actually be activating the Beltline's robust fiber optic network that we install as we lay trail. Thus far, we have about 16 miles of dark fiber underneath the trail. And the intention here is to leverage that bit of technology to bring economic opportunities to residents and small businesses around the Beltline, hoping to improve the quality of life, to bring technology solutions, to solve some of the urban issues that currently exist around the Beltline. So in partnership with one of the our Fortune 500 companies, along with the DBE, we're going to be shaping and developing that strategy. We're also going to be piloting a couple of ideas along the Beltline that will bring public Wi-Fi, maybe an autonomous grocery store, a kiosk with wayfinding information, maps, Beltline activities. And so lots to come as it relates to our smart cities work. And we're going to continue to lean on you and your input as we shape that strategy going forward. And we have a couple of opportunities to do just that. We'll have an in-person citywide conversation to be held on Thursday, February 29th at the Grove Park Community Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we'll also have a virtual meeting that will be held in March. I think that's March 7th from 6 p.m. to 7:30. So again, we plan to continue to update you on this specific strategy and lean on your input to make sure that whatever technology we put on the Beltline, that it's informed by the community and it truly brings value and enhance the user experience along the Beltline. So that concludes my update for this evening. And with that, I would like to introduce Miranda Kyle, our Arts and Culture Program Manager.
Thanks so much, Calvin. I appreciate that. Hey, y'all. I am Miranda. I'm the Arts and Culture Program Manager for the Atlanta BeltLine, and I'm really excited to give you an overview of the artworks, exhibitions, and events that you can expect to see on the corridor this year. This season's murals are all about collaboration. Chastity Hamdallah will be painting Park Avenue on both the East Side Trail and the Piedmont Park side, and we are partnering on this project with the Piedmont Park Conservancy. We're anticipating the start of this work to be late spring. Also, we'll be seeing Aziz's mural pop up on the forthcoming side saddle, which is going to be a really cute winery there on the South Side Trail sometime late spring, early summer as well. These murals are really getting back to our roots of collaborating with small businesses and other stakeholders around the corridor to help beautify these spaces and bring more and diverse artwork around our Beltline. Next slide, please. The new round of sculptures this year draw inspiration from the aesthetic history of the South and particularly what has made Atlanta so iconic as a creative hub. Adana and Miriam's Arch Quilts in the Sky will adorn the entrance to the Southside Trail from Pittsburgh Yards. Kamisha Butler's Love Letter to Atlanta Hip Hop History, FILA, Forever I Love Atlanta, will stand tall at the confluence of the Southside Trail and the Aline Avenue Connector Trail. Next slide, please. Performance artist Faye Monet will bring their embodied conceptual series Amplified Bodies to our Beltline After Dark series of events. Our public art residency program is one of the gems of our annual programming. This season, we welcome Eugene Bird III as our curator in residence, Nadia Zeitlin as our artist in residence, and Dr. Shay Welch as our scholar in residence. The continuing collection of the Atlanta BeltLine is all of the art and performances that you can find on the corridor year-round. There are over 150 works of art and activations that you can enjoy at any point in the year, except for usually between November and February because it's kind of gross and slushy outside. So we try not to stick artists or patrons out there if we can help it. Notably, the Lantern Parade will return to the West Side Trail on May 11th this year, so make sure to mark your calendars. At the heart of the curatorial work that I do at the Atlanta BeltLine is elevating community-driven exhibitions and projects. Atlanta is a creative city, and what better place to put The South Has Something to Say on display than the BeltLine. Some of our exciting external exhibitions and special projects for this season are Lagos Atlanta, Sister City Rising Artist Residency and Exhibition curated by the High Museum's Lauren Tate Baeza will make an appearance on the West Side Trail in late April. National Black Arts Festival's Next Gen Project returns to collaborate with us and Beltline schools all around the corridor to bring Beltline artists into these schools to teach our kids about creativity and professional opportunities in the arts. ATL Park Jam will return in August to celebrate community and hip hop with Soul Food Cypher. And Where the Weird Things Are will make another appearance on the East Side Trail Extension by Kirkwood, hosted by Chantel Ritter and the crew of the Grateful Gluttons and the Black Sheep Ensemble. ATL Jam will round out 2024 with their annual Style Writing Festival in November. And these are just some of the incredible creative projects and opportunities coming to our corridor this year. If you're interested in any of these projects or getting involved as a volunteer, a member of our Beltline Public Arts Advisory Council, an artist, a juror, any creative output you may have and you want to be a part of what we're doing here, please reach out to me via email and I will drop that in the chat for you. And with that, I will hand it back over to our Community Engagement Manager Extraordinaire, Rashida Williamson.
Thank you, Miranda. I appreciate that. With that being said, we have reached the portion of the agenda that it is now open for comments and questions. And we really do want to hear from you. So let's just discuss how you can participate in this conversation. For questions and comments, you can type them or verbally express them by raising your hand. Our audience is made up of Zoom online, phone attendees, as well as YouTube live attendees. So I just want to briefly review how each of you can participate. If you are a phone attendee, if you would like to speak, please press *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand when the discussion begins. And a member of our team will open your line when it is your turn, and your phone will prompt you to press *6 to unmute yourself. If you are an online attendee, you can submit a response at any time in the Q&A box. In addition, you can upvote a response by clicking on the thumbs up icon. The raise your hand feature will also be available for all Zoom participants. However, we will prioritize our phone attendees. And lastly, for our YouTube live attendees, please feel free to participate in the comments section. Someone from our staff will make sure that I see your question. So I'm going to open up the Q&A box right now at this time. And currently we don't have any questions, which is fairly good for our first QB, I would say that. But I do have somebody raising their hand, so I'm just going to allow them to speak and ask their question. But if you do have any more questions or comments, please feel free to type them in. So I see I have a Jewel Brown. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi.
There is an echo, so I'm going to try it one more time. See if you can unmute yourself again.
Hello.
Okay. At this time, it may be the feedback from your Zoom, I would assume, but we'll also work on our area. So what I'm going to do for right now, if you can just type your question in the Q&A box, I'll make sure to get to it as soon as possible. Or if you want to do, we could try it again because we will possibly still have that feedback if you don't mind.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. I do see we have a question in the Q&A box from Tim. Please explain how and exactly where the Beltline will cross Peachtree Street. So if we can have Kevin or Kynthia, if you would like.
Sure. I'll be happy to take that. Hey, Tim. The current proposal has the corridor passing under Peachtree Street. from Bennett Street on the west to the existing supermarket on the east side. We're working with Georgia DOT as they move forward with redoing the bridge over the railroad tracks in the area. And they'll be putting in I'll call it a tunnel, culvert or tunnel that can be used at a later date as part of that work. So there's still a lot of things that have to be worked out, but that's currently our plan.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm gonna move to the next question. What land does the Beltline own at Amsterdam Walk other than the transit corridor?
I'll hop in there, Rashida.
Thank you.
It's approximately a 2-acre remnant of land just that is fronts to the Beltline, and it is just behind Amsterdam Walk and also by Piedmont Park right there. I don't have the exact address, but just over 2 acres.
And I'll also add to that. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Pierce. I'm the VP of Real Estate for the Beltline. That particular section of the corridor is also quite large. Typically, our corridors are 100 feet wide. That corridor is actually 200 feet wide. And you may not know it, but we actually own part of the current parking lot that Amsterdam Walk uses. So it is not impacting the future transit corridor. That was the first thing that we looked at when we put this land up for potential sale, because obviously our number one goal is to implement the vision of the Beltline.
Thank you, Dave and Dennis. We do appreciate that. I'll move along to the next question. What is the timeline for introduction to opening up an establishment along the Beltline? I heard a mention of recent graduates. How long is the training and orientation? And this question will be for Kelvin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rashida. Great question. So the Beltline Business Ventures is a 10-week program, and it's really geared towards businesses that are established and looking to expand or scale, and they see the Beltline as a great destination for their business. And again, if you have to have a registered business, a license with the city of Atlanta, you need to have a product, you need to have customers. And then the program is 10 weeks, and we really help you refine your business and then connect you to vacant spaces and affordable locations along the Beltline over a 10-week period.
Thank you for that. I'm going to move to another question that I saw earlier, and I just want to make sure we had some of the stats for you. And this is from Tom. It says, on an average, how many people a day walk on the Beltline, particularly on the East Side Trail, and how many on the weekday? And I believe I'll have Sean to answer that question for me.
Or Dave, if you want it, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it. I just logged in really quick to our system so I could look at some of the numbers. So our busiest sections of the East Side Trail, we log about 2 million visitors a year. On average, that number, say Irwin Street by Krog Market is about one of the busiest sections. That gets about 5,000 or 6,000 people a day. On this past Saturday, that was a pretty nice day. We logged about 12,000 people. And we can, get upwards of, closer to 15,000 almost on a really nice weekend day. Obviously, it's highly weather dependent, and just really want to echo some of the things that Sean said. That sort of cyclical nature and weather dependency of trail counters, I think would be interesting to see. Once transit came through, I would suspect that we would see a bit of a flattening of that weather effect out there.
Yeah, and just to add one more, if you're curious about the general split between the number of pedestrians and the number of bicyclists, or kind of those as proxies, we'd count scooters as bikes and we'd count joggers as pedestrians. But it's generally an 80-20 split over on the east side, with 80% of the trail users being pedestrians and about 20% using some sort of wheeled vehicle.
Thank you, Dave and Sean. So I do have a comment that came in, and we appreciate it. And we have 2 upvotes for it. I just wanted to say, great work by ABI. Your accomplishments are incredible. And hats off to you for maintaining focus on transit as we age into this less agility, I'm just going to assume. We must have the Beltline available to all. Thank you. Okay, I have another upvote. Cobb County had a meeting today about the planned Connect the Comment extension from the Silver Comment to the North Side Beltline. What is the expected time frame of completion of the North Side Beltline?
That area and that planned trail connects to what we call Northwest Trail 5 in the area of, I believe it's Lane Street and Ellsworth Industrial Boulevard. Not far from Top Golf, right next to Forsyth Fabrics, just to give a couple of wayfinding there. That's one of the segments that I mentioned was getting ready to go out for bid. It's probably a 20 to 24 month construction time frame. So it's possible that the Path Foundation that is looking to build that connection will be overlapping their work with ours. And right now, I can't tell you who will finish first.
Thank you for that. The next question I do see, as developments pop up around the Beltline, how will parking be established? Will it be free? And anyone from the team can jump in if they would like.
I'll jump in on that. This is Lynette Reed with the Atlanta BeltLine. So we focus primarily on pedestrians and cyclists, and obviously future transit. So it's not in our purview to prepare or plan for parking facilities.
Thank you for that. Next, I do have another question that was upvoted. I'm going to ask, how is the Beltline incorporating historic preservation along the corridor? Again, anyone from the team can feel free to jump in.
I'll start with that. So again, Lynette. And so historic preservation, as we've done it in the past in terms of like the overlay, et cetera, really typically goes through, we envision adaptive reuse. Now, when we're doing corridor development, there is an historic preservation component of some of these grants that we have to identify what's historically significant. As a part of that documentation, we do that. And then we encourage it through adaptive reuse. And that's pretty much we've also worked with the city for a landmark district for one of the bridges. So that's been our involvement or our work to date as it relates to historic preservation. But the city, as you know, has historic designations, landmark district and historic districts in neighborhoods to also preserve the character and the context of the neighborhoods.
Thank you for that, Lynette. Now I'm going to switch it up a little bit. We do have a question from a YouTube Live attendee that asks, after the recent collision on Bill Kennedy, I'm especially curious to hear more details about the new pedestrian bridge and Glenwood Park complete streets. Thanks.
So the contract for the Southside Trail 6 along Bill Kennedy, we just executed that at the end of December. We're in the process of ramping that team up. The design consultant team is led by Patrick Peters with the Heath and Linebeck organization, corporation, company, whatever they are. And we're really looking forward to bringing out some information to the community and getting some feedback, catching everybody up over the course of this coming spring. Would probably be about the time frame that we'd start to have something conceptual that we can bring out. For those of you that have been in Glenwood Park or in the area for a while, you can probably remember that we had several conversations and through community engagement meetings probably back in 2016, 2017, and maybe even into 18. And it was in the context of developing a concept. And so we're going to be running with that concept to begin with, but we also want to come back to the community and see what has changed. So we do know that the I-20 off-ramp onto Bill Kennedy eastbound has been, well, let's just say it's been interesting. to downplay that as much as possible. But that safety element of that will be part of the work that we end up doing. So soon we'll be out to the community to have a lot of discussions about Bill Kennedy Way.
Thank you. Now I'm going to jump back to Jewel Brown's question because I know we had audio feedback, but she did type it in on the Q&A box. And she asks, how can nonprofits get involved with affordable housing projects? We provide transitional housing and life skills training for single mothers.
Yeah, happy to take that one. I'll drop my email address in the chat, but short of it is, we always will offer an RFP for development partners, and also they often have programmatic elements within them, and we encourage partnerships amongst the respondent group. And so there will be opportunities for you to take a look at those offerings, but then also engage with me, and I may be able to plug you in with other projects by getting done by private developers along the Beltline corridor.
Perfect. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, the next question is from Sean Brown. This question is actually for you, Sean. So Sean, thanks for sharing the no-line streetcar green space sketches. For the east side segment, are trees planned to be with the trail and the streetcar, and or will there be a barrier in between?
Yeah, so the intention is to have as green of a corridor as we can manage. And so part of that is the grass track element that's being investigated to figure out how we can design that structurally. We know it can be done. It's done throughout the world. So it's just us finding out kind of the secret sauce, if you will. In terms of space between trail and transit, the intention is to have as thick of a landscape as we can. So there would be trees, there'd be shrubs, just kind of a physical and psychological barrier between the trail and transit to keep people from getting out onto the transit guideway. At 25 miles an hour, we're slower than most traffic around the city, especially off peak times. So from the perspective of safety, I don't see that as being that big of a problem. But there also, the intention is to maintain all of the access points that are on the transit side of the guideway or the transit side of the Beltline corridor. So on the when thinking about Streetcar East, there's access points at Irwin Street, it's at grade, and then at Magruder, at John Wesley Dobbs, farther up at Highland Walk. Over at, I just lost the name of it, the townhouse community across from the old parish. It's Highland something, I'm sorry, at East Avenue. And then, you go farther north from there, there's access to the park at the skate park, Fourth Ward Park there. And so all of those access points are going to be maintained. They'll be reconfigured for safety, but the access does not go away. As we tighten up our design for transit over the course of the next, say, 2 years, we'll have a lot more information that we'll be able to share with that. But the details right now are, thin because we're only at 30% design. But the intention there is to put as many trees and shrubs in between trail and transit as possible.
Thank you, Sean. Now I'm going to keep going just with the round robin of different other questions, just so we can mix up the topics. I did see one question. Let me make sure I'm pulling it back up because you all are upvoting, and I appreciate that as much as possible. It says, does ABI have data yet on the purposes of people using the Beltline, et cetera, examples for transportation and recreation? I'd just like to answer that. We had just started that new set of data. So we will be collecting that. If you would like for it to be shared, please feel free to email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. Next, I want to move on to another question that'll kind of shake things up a little bit. So this is from Nancy. Will ABI champion any programs to support small businesses as developers build in their spots and then raise rents sustainably? We've lost several local restaurants near the Beltline recently due to rents, for example, and small retailers are non-existent. Instead, we have chains like Patagonia.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I'll say that one of our strategic pillars within economic inclusion for the Beltline is commercial affordability. And so you may have heard earlier from Dennis when he mentioned Beltline's land acquisition strategy. Part of it certainly is to ensure we focus on housing, but we're certainly committed equally to commercial affordability along the Beltline. So in the next couple of months and at future quarterly briefing, we'll talk about our commercial affordability strategy that's currently on the way. We're working with a consultant named HRNA and along with Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative, and we will have a series of solutions that will include efforts to support local developers, as well as ensuring that we have a set of solutions for small businesses to long-term have affordable space along the Beltline so that their businesses can thrive. So lots more to come on that, and in the coming weeks, you'll hear from the Beltline on commercial affordability.
Thank you for that, Kelvin. I did have a question for Miranda. This is from Mia. There's an overpass and several areas under bridges on the West Side Trail on Longhorn Street that could benefit from artwork. How do you determine which area the artist will display their work on, and how and can these areas be considered? Thanks.
That is such a great question. So every year we go through and look at current conditions, right? So like the Langhorne Bridge that's right there there's two sections. There's the Westview Bridge and then the big highway that goes over it. One's painted, one isn't. So one of the things we have to look at is, do we own this bridge? And do we have the right to paint on it? That's always the first question. If we want to paint it and we don't necessarily own that bridge, then we have to talk to either GDOT or the city to figure out who actually owns that property so that we can activate it. So for example, if you look at the section of those two bridges right beside each other, Westview, we have access to. The bigger one, we currently don't. So we'd have to ask permission from GDOT in order to be able to paint that bridge. And so that's the first thing we do is we try to figure out, like, can we paint this? And then we build a map every year of available spaces, and that gets included in the annual RFP of where artists can propose to put artworks. And so we select artists through a jurying process and a vetting process. And usually in their proposals, they say, hey, I would love to paint this bridge. Hey, I'd love to paint this section over here, put my sculpture here. So we take that into account. And then we also look at the distribution of artists and arts in these different sections of the Beltline. Is something under construction? Do we have access to that space? Yes or no? And that's how we end up citing the artwork. So there is a lot of variables that are more on the like logistic operational side. And then we get to the fun part of like curating the work and the spaces that it goes into. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Miranda. I'm going to go back up to the top. Can you speak to the expected completion of Northwest Trail segments 5 in Blandtown, English Street to Howell Mill? I might have the wrong segment.
You have the right segment, but the wrong number. That's actually segment 4. That design contract is somewhere between 30 and 60%. So we're still moving forward with that. And I believe our goal is to have design close to wrapped up by the end of the year, if not, in fact, fully complete.
Thank you for that. Next, the Botanical Garden expansion plans call for a service south to a new visitor center that appears to be crossing the Beltline. Is this accurate, or do you know how they could avoid crossing the Beltline?
I'll take that. Yes, their current plan has them closing Westminster Drive as it comes off of Piedmont and realigning the road out to Monroe Drive. So there is realistically no way for them not to cross the Beltline, but that is a secondary access, not for the general public. So we don't expect huge numbers of vehicles crossing there. There will be a visitor drop-off up near Piedmont Road but there won't be any connection as it currently exists.
Thank you. Next, has the recent rise in anti-transit rhetoric caused ABI to reconsider transit on the Beltline?
Generally speaking, no. But we are obviously listening. We're listening for constructive feedback as opposed to just saying no. That's not really something that we can react to. But if you tell us, hey, this is what I need for transit, for me to be able to support it, then that's where we can have a really constructive conversation.
Thank you. For our next question, you mentioned water view of creek at Garson. The condition of the creek with tires and trash is disgusting. We have tried to get city help. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. I'll go back to asking the question one more time. You mentioned water view of creek at Garson. The condition.
Go ahead,
of
Rashida.
Oh, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. You mentioned water view of creek at Garson. The condition of the creek with tires and trash is disgusting. We have tried to get city help, Chat River Keepers help, any help at all, nothing. Can you please push everyone to get the whole creek clean, not just the special sections that get focused on every year?
Yeah, Martha, thank you for the comment. The cleanup of the creek is not part of the trail project, and it's not part of the housing project that we have there either. But that's not to say that we can't pull together some sort of volunteer effort or something along the way. So keep pushing on us, and if you have any ideas, we'd love to hear them. Thanks.
Okay, Sean, I'm going to keep you on for another couple of round robins of transit questions. We're going to start at Peter first. With plans for transit existing since 1965, how are we still only in the planning phase?
Well, Peter, that wasn't the point of what I was trying to say. In terms of Beltline, yeah, there's been planning along the way, and a lot of it. And we're not talking about what that image from 1961 was. That's going to be in revenue service carrying customers in 2028 is what the current schedule for MARTA is. So there will be transit on the Beltline corridor relatively soon. And then the rest of the planning study is trying to figure out stuff that we haven't been able to figure out previously. And we're using the federal monies to do it. So again, to identify the alignment for the Northwest, where there is not an abandoned railroad corridor, and to take another look at the Southwest and the Southeast and identify station locations. That's going to be really, really important to make sure that we have that connectivity back to the community.
Next question about railing. This is from Jennifer. What is the estimated cost of adding rail onto the Beltline? Is there an alternative transportation mode being considered other than rail that might be less expensive?
Hey, Jennifer. Yes, the estimated cost right now from the 30% plans was coming in, I'm ballparking it, it was somewhere around $230, $250 million to get the street card from downtown across city streets onto the Beltline corridor and up to Ponce. Actually, there's a new bridge over Ponce as well as part of that project for the purposes of the tail track. Are there other transit modes that might be less expensive? I think that we're going to see some savings with respect to going off wire. So we haven't quantified that yet in terms of what those cost savings might be. But assuming that we're able to meet our, and I got this from one of our neighbor friends over in Inman Park, if we're able to meet our requirements, which are, trying to make as green of a corridor as we can, we'd really like it to be off wire. And we just need to run through those technical analyses to make sure that for our service plan that we're able to do that. We do feel like nothing other than the rail really meets the requirements. If we tried to do a shuttle of some kind, a bus of some kind, we'd need to put down, another 26 feet of width of asphalt or concrete. And that's just not the green corridor that we're looking for. So there are less expensive transit modes, but they don't meet the requirements that we're really trying to strive for out here on the Beltline. Or they don't meet the capacity requirements that we're looking for either. So
Sean, it's a two-part question from Peter, but it's just a follow-up about railing. Do we have a rough estimated date of completion?
So, like I said, the Streetcar East extension up to Ponce is supposed to be in revenue service in 2028. And then in terms of the Beltline Transit Study, we should have all of our deliverables wrapped up and the contract closed out in June of 2025. And then in terms of active rail service I'm looking at the correct question, will Beltline connect to Westside Park and what is the estimated date of that project? We don't yet have a construction funding stream to get out to Westside Park yet. We're working to try to identify how we can make the More MARTA program and the funding stream behind it bigger. And that's from other sources. It's not necessarily from the sales tax itself. So the More MARTA program is a half-penny sales tax for, well, it was 40 years. It's probably now 35. And then, federal grants and a lot of other things that are out there can help us to grow that pie. But I don't have a date for you for connecting to Westside Park. The trail gets you pretty close. There'll be some other access that's going to be worked out to make sure we can get as good of a connection between Westside Trail, Beltline, and Westside Park. And that's still a work in progress.
Thank you for that, Sean. I was going to have Kevin jump in for that. You did great. This next question is for Dennis. This is for proposed housing. Do you have a breakdown between rental and home ownership units or desired goal for each? Are there any discussions underway for development in partnership with the city's new Atlanta Urban Development Corp?
Okay. Hi, Kate. Good questions. We do not break our mandate down, our 5,600 unit goal between rental or single family home ownership. Obviously, home ownership is important to us. Last year, we supported 2 deals that provided for permanently affordable for sale single family via the Atlanta Land Trust. And we'll continue to support their projects. Also, we're looking at doing some single family as part of our master planning effort we showed you for our Chapel Road site on our 30 acres. There should be opportunities there for that. And also the AUDC with the city, we expect that obviously they'll be working to see the city property, that 30 acres that I showed you there near West Side Trail segment for developed. So we obviously collaborate closely with the city, and that team on a regular basis.
Thank you, Dennis. This next question, there's so many coming in. I appreciate it. This is from Chuck. How will 10th and Monroe crosswalk be built while public storage excavates for a new building at Cayuga and Monroe? Which project goes first, and are they concurrent?
I can take that one. Hey, I'm Cynthia Gaines. I'm the Director of Construction for AVI. So we've been in contact with the developer for public storage, and we're well aware of their plans. And I think they're still kind of going through the permitting process right now. So the way things are trending, it looks like we'll be there first, working on the intersection. But if there's any opportunity for us to work concurrently, we're definitely trying to get that scheduled.
Thank you. And then this will be my last question of the evening, and please do not fret. I do see I have a few more open, so if you want to continue to drop in more questions at this time, we will have a Q&A report that will be posted in a few weeks to answer all of these questions and to have it documented. And they'll be posted online at beltline.org/meetings. But I'm going to go to this last question question that I feel is just a great one, and this is for Sean. As a question from Jennifer. She says that she lives on the Beltline adjacent, only a few feet away from the new construction near United. How close will the transit system be to my home/back deck?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the question right now.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
There
I
we
live
go.
Beltline adjacent, only feet away from new construction near United. On the South Side corridor, the transit system is on call it the outside of the loop. So if you're in the townhouses on the north side of the Beltline, the trail corridor will be closest to your property line, and then the trains would be, well, the trail would be between the trains and your property line. And so that's, I mean, that is what it is with respect to what we've been planning and what we're constructing on the south side. We really thought that it was important, especially maybe not in this particular location, but in other places with a vista back into downtown, that the trail be on the inside of the Beltline corridor.
Thank you for that question, Sean. Again, all questions that were not answered will be posted online in just a few weeks on beltline.org/meetings, but we do need to move forward with closing out. So I do have just a few additional polling questions. And as I start the poll, you should see the question pop up on your screen. Now, this feature is not made available if you have called in or viewing on the browser online, but I will read the results to the room. So our first question, was the information presented tonight helpful in changing your perception and or understanding of the Beltline project? We can go ahead and stop that poll and share the results with the room. We have 46 saying yes, 2 saying no, and 3 with no opinion. With the people who are saying no or no opinion, I always encourage you just to email us your questions, comments, or concerns to engage at atlbeltline.org. That way we can make sure that we clarify anything for you. And then for our last polling question of the evening, did you learn something new? We try to make sure we provide as much information as possible and to update you on our design and construction of the trail, and now most recently with the implementation of light rail transit. We can go ahead and stop that poll and share the results with the room. Again, we have 44 people saying yes, 3 saying no, and 3 need more clarity. Again, engage at atlbeltline.org. So I just want to move to this last slide just to give you just a rundown of a few meetings we have just up ahead for the rest of the month of February. We do have on February 14th next week our Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board quarterly meeting. This will be the first one. We also have on February 21st our Design Review Committee. This is a virtual public meeting. February 22nd is our Northside Study Group virtual public meeting. So if you like updates on the Northwest Trail segments 1, we do have a contractor introduction, segment 2 with 60% design and segment 3 with 30% design. On February 26th, we'll have our West Side Study Group virtual public meeting. And this is for West Side Trail segments 4 construction updates and West Side Park updates. Also on February 27th, we'll have our Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This is a virtual public meeting. And on February 29th, we will have a citywide conversation for smart cities, which was mentioned earlier, and this will be in person. So as we always like to say, thank you for your participation in our final round, our polling questions, but also just staying in tune and learning about the Beltline. I would like to thank the ABI team for these updates. And most of all, I also like to thank you, the audience, for joining us for this virtual world. And a reminder that a recording of this meeting and the presentation will be made available to you at beltline.org/meetings. And again, we will see you on the Beltline. Thank you so much.